Exclusively on the OysterLink Podcast, the fastest growing hospitality job platform in the US, Chef Ryan Lacheyne explores the differences between owning a restaurant and working at one. He reflects on the decade-long journey of owning his restaurant, Riel, and the relief of moving back to a corporate-supported role. Chef Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
So, Chef, to start, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your career path?
My name's Ryan Lacheyne. I'm a chef in Houston, Texas. I've been cooking here now for maybe about 15 years or so. I'm currently the executive chef at a restaurant called State of Grace.
Okay, you said that you've been cooking here for the past 15 years. Do you mean in the same restaurant?
No, in the same city. I'm originally from Canada. I moved down here about 20 some odd years ago to Houston. Went to culinary school here and took it from there. So I started off maybe a little bit later in life. I was just in my right before I was 30. I kind of went to culinary school, so I kind of had to fast forward things a little bit. I've cooked at a restaurant here called Gravitas. It's no longer around. I cooked for Brian Caswell, who's a fairly well known guy. For actually cooked for him twice. Once as a line cook, once as a chef de cuisine. I was the opening sous chef at a place here called Underbelly for Chris Shepard for 2-3 years. And I recently I had my own restaurant called Riel. Was open for 10 years. Recently closed it last year in August. And now I'm the exec at State of Grace.
How long have you been at State of Grace?
7 months, pretty new.
7 months. Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, you mentioned that you had your own restaurant, Riel.
I did.
How did owning a restaurant teach you like something about the industry that working in one never could? You said that you worked in different restaurants before owning your own.
I did. So, like I said, I'm an older dude. So, after working for several guys in town here, I figured that it was probably the next step was to open my own spot. So, I was lucky enough to find a decent place and open it up. It was, we had a good run, 10 years, but it was obviously a difficult one. We were open for 6 months. We got hit by Harvey, a terrible hurricane here that's never good for business. We had a couple winter freezes down here in Houston. Things don't work out, and obviously we went through the pandemic as well here. So that, obviously changed the landscape for everybody. So it wasn't the easiest 10 years, but it was a good run.
Let me ask you, how did you decide it was time to move on? I mean, from owning a restaurant to moving on, that's not an easy decision. So how did you know that it's time? There is no way you can just, keep fighting against all of that.
I was in a situation. We were I was my lease was running out on at Riel, and you kind of have to make a decision after a while, like, do I want to keep doing this and rolling the dice here, and having to do everything on my own with minimal support, and or being able to go work for somebody else that where there's a lot of support there, and if I need something, it's there. I'm not the only guy that has to take care of everything. So there's it's a business decision you have to make, and it's also kind of a life decision you have to make. Don't want to keep killing myself and doing this and being the executive chef and the IT guy and the social media guy and the plumber and the electrician and all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So it was tough, but long game, thinking long game, it wasn't, to have to get out of it.
And let me ask you that you mentioned you joined this industry later. Like,
Mhm.
weren't you from this industry from the beginning? Did you go to culinary school or did you
Well, I
start as a
did.
chef?
No. So, like I said, I'm originally from Canada. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, so right above North Dakota. My ex-wife is a Houstonian. I used to play hockey and coach hockey. And when I finished doing that, I moved down to the US, and I was kind of lost a little bit trying to figure out what I could do, because I've been sitting in a hockey rink since I've been 3-4 years old. Went to business school and couldn't stand it, and just decided to said, hey man, like I did what probably everyone says I shouldn't do, just because I enjoyed cooking and that kind of stuff. I went to culinary school, and thank God it kind of worked out.
Amazing. And let me ask you, what is the hardest thing about leading a kitchen as an executive chef compared to what is the hardest thing as being a restaurant owner? Since you have both experiences, can you tell me what's your take on
Well,
both?
restaurant owner, you're dealing with paying bills and leases, and like all that kind of the business side of it, right? Like I don't claim to be a great business guy ever, but you have to deal with that kind of stuff. Excuse me. Being an executive chef, I feel now you have to be a good leader, and you have to figure out ways to motivate your staff and keep them happy, and get the at the end of the day, get the product that you want out on the table for the customers and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of apples and oranges. The business side of it, you're sitting on your computer, you're on the phone, and the executive chef side of it, which I'm way more comfortable with. It's I always feel being a good leader and producing good cooks, right? Like I feel I owe it to some of these kids and young men and women that work for me, that if they're going to come here and they're going to work their ass off, like I at least owe them something. I can teach them something that so they'll be better, so they can have the same opportunity that I've had. If they want to go move on and open their own place, that if they need some help or something, that I can kind of give them the playbook that I had. I can, like, they can learn from mistakes that I made.
Do you think that like a lot of chefs these days somehow underestimate the importance of business management when it comes to running their own restaurant?
Oh,
So maybe they
100%.
focus on the kitchen a lot more than managing the whole place.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll tell people, like, if they're younger guys or someone's like, you need good operators. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to, are you still there? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry. You need someone to take care of that. If you're trying to produce, a certain level of food and experience at a restaurant, it helps out if there's someone, dealing with the business side of it, so you can focus on your team and the product you're producing there. It's tough having to do everything, and then switch gears at 4 o'clock or 3:30 or whenever, when your restaurant's about to open at 5, to get that stuff done. Right. And that, I think, kind of goes full circle to having to teach and coach and maybe mentor your staff, to take a little bit of that weight off you, that you can. I was very fortunate when I had Riel, that I had some really, really good sous chefs with me, and I put in a lot of work with them. But that eased a lot of the pressure off me, that I knew that if I wasn't there to have to take care of that stuff, that the restaurant was in good hands. Because at the end of the day, you have to produce good food, right? Like no one sees that side of it when you're figuring out your taxes, or you're doing things like that. You're the TABC down here, stuff like that. No one sees that. All they see is the food that's produced. So having a good staff, I think, is important, and takes a little bit of the pressure off a business owner having to deal with the business side of it.
If you had the opportunity to open a restaurant again, will you ever go through that, or just you're done with opening restaurants?
And that's a tough one. Obviously, if the situation was ideal and I had those type of
Never ideal. I
it's
don't
never
think it's
ideal, but as ideal as it
yes.
can be, like
Okay.
if I had the operators behind me, that can manage the things, like manage the money and manage all that kind of stuff, and I could focus now just on food and
Okay.
that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Would I do it? Maybe, I don't know, like the situation I'm in now at State of Grace with Rocket Farm, and that, having that company behind me is nice, right? That it gives me the opportunity to do a lot of things I couldn't do before, because I have a lot of support with people, right? I don't have to worry about my PR, like doing that, or my Instagram, which like it takes doing that. It's a full-time job. Like, that takes a lot of time to, like, obviously they set me up with you, like I wasn't out there pounding the pavement trying to trying to do something, so that helps a lot. And that security, in my opinion, like, I sleep a lot better at night, having that security and those folks behind me.
And you can probably even focus more on what you're doing in the kitchen, so you can even be better in what you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If something breaks at State of Grace, there's someone that I can call that will help me out. Like, I'm not having to deal with that. Or if, we get hurricanes or bad weather down here sometimes, where things get a little dicey, like, that's not, I'm not sweating it as bad as I was, being a small business owner.
Let me now shift to some questions about recruitment in the industry.
Mhm.
So, given your experience all those years, let me ask you, what do you look for in a line cook that a resume cannot show?
Oh, I like, we bring people in. I obviously, if there's, we'll have people stage for an hour, come in and cook. You just look at them, like you can see, I can see by now how people work in a kitchen, how they kind of move and that. And usually, if someone's in staging for a job, I'll put them with one of my better cooks that I trust. That, like, and I'll ask, like, you can see, like, is in my opinion, and I've said this for cooking's easy, right? For me, it's easy. I can teach you how to cook. I can't teach you how to be a team player. I can't teach you to work well with others. So that's the main focus for me, is like, man, can this person come in here and can they fit in? Because it's a tight little weird community. I don't care how big your kitchen is, you're stuck back there with all these people 8, 9, 10 hours a day. If you can't get along, or if you're a cancer back there, cancer spreads real quick. Like, I don't want you there. If I see potential in you, I'll hire you and I'll teach you how we do things here. Now, what you do with that is up to you, right? But if I think that you can fit in this kitchen and you'll mesh well with everybody, I'll bring you on, no problem.
Amazing. Let me ask you, what is the biggest mistake that restaurant owners make in hiring? Probably when
You
they don't
know,
have teams responsible for the whole hiring process, when they're doing the whole thing on their own.
I think it's looking at a resume, right? It's just like, I've come across a lot of guys that have worked, at Michelin star place all over the world and that, and you get them in there and they're just clowns. There's like it looks good on paper, but they may have $10,000 worth of knives and staged at Noma, or worked for some super famous guys, but they just can't get along with anyone and they can't do it. And in my opinion, I don't care how good you are. If you're just gonna make my life harder at my already hard job, I don't want you in there. And I think that's a problem. People look at some of these men and women coming in, and they look at their accolades first instead of looking at them kind of as human beings and what's going to happen, with here. Because, like, that 4, 5, 6 hours of service is intense, and if you can't figure it out, you can't get along, you can't be a team guy, then you're no good to me, anyways.
This is probably happening a lot in this industry due to people trying to climb the ladder so fast. So they're trying to get to more positions, trying to, they're not ready yet for the next position, but you would see them
Oh,
going after something just because
yeah.
someone
You know,
worked in a kitchen or worked under someone else.
everyone wants to be the sous chef till it's time to be the sous chef, right? Everyone
Yeah.
wants to do this and do all this other shit until, like, you have to work 10 hours. You have to come on your day
Yeah.
off because two guys called in sick, and or someone got something happened to them. Everyone, like, you're the person, and it just kind of it's hard, and in your executive chef, whatever, it's just a different kind of hard. But you get to a
Yeah.
certain level, and this is show business, baby. Like, this is what we do now. And I don't think some people think that. They think that once you become the sous chef, you're walking around with a freaking clipboard and a laptop and not doing nothing. Like, no, like, you're the main, you're the line cook, you're this, you're all that kind of stuff for me. So I think it's not for everybody. I think I've seen it numerous times where you hit that point where you got to make a decision here, man, where
Yep.
you're gonna live this, it's a lifestyle, or you're not, and that's it. Like, it's just, there's no in my opinion, there's no like, there's no secret. It's just hard work.
Yeah.
People think that you go to, like, there's some kind of secret, thing, or that. No, man, it's just hard work. Like, I've seen a lot of people that maybe aren't as talented as some of these people that just outwork them, and they're way more successful than these guys that have, been all over the place.
It's not TikTok. It's
It
their
ain't tick.
kitchens.
It ain't TikTok. It ain't the Food Network. It ain't all that. It's not
Nope.
all that stuff. It's a freaking grind. And I'm like, man, I love it. Right. And I know other guys like that. It's hard in that. We complain, but, man, like, I love this stuff, and I like the lifestyle. I like working at night. I like all that stuff.
On the same topic, let me ask you, what are the red flags that you look for in a potential candidate during an interview? Something that makes you reject someone even before the stage or anything.
You can, I don't know, you've enough people, you're talking to people, you get a vibe from them, right? Like, some of these cooks come in kind of cocky, or they start, like, interviewing me and that kind of stuff. Like, I don't really owe you anything, right? Like, if you want, you can go somewhere else. And if I don't get a good feeling like that, like, you're just maybe, like, talking about yourself or where you've been and what you've done and all this kind of stuff. To me, it's kind of a turnoff a little bit, And the culinary world's very, very, very small, like, very small and very incestuous. We all know each other in some way, shape, or form. We know someone that knows someone that can validate if what you're saying is true or not, or if you're this and that. So it's not that hard for me to call a reference if you put something on your resume and find out what the real deal is, you know. So I just kind of get a feel from people. You look at them and just see how they're kind of talking to you. And that if I don't get a good vibe from them, then I just don't hire them. That's it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
let me now just wrap up with one question since we talked about hiring. What about job hiring platforms? Has it gotten harder or easier to staff a kitchen this way, with tech and AI and all those platforms online?
Well, the company I work for, Rocket Firm, we have a pretty intense hiring process. Like you have to apply online, and there's a whole almost like vetting process that they go through our HR department. That at my old place I was HR. Like you walked in and I liked you. Like I man, you can work tonight if you want. Over there it's a little bit there's a little bit more going on, and obviously because it's a big restaurant group and there's a lot more at stake, kind of, if
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. But it's getting harder, I think, because I thought it would get easier with, this is kind of maybe bad to say, with restaurants closing, there'd be more cooks out there, because there's a lot of years where there's no one out there, and now there's still no one. There's less restaurants and there's still no one out there. So I guess people are leaving the industry and that kind of stuff. So it gets a little dicey sometimes hiring people. But like I said, it goes back to it. If we have a good interview and you don't have a lot of experience, I'm taking you on, and then it's on me. Right.
Yep.
I'll take the responsibility then. If you don't pan out, that's my fault. But I'll do whatever I can to help you to get better and to fit into this kitchen.
So I promised only to take 15 minutes. I've already taken 25.
No,
So
no, you're man,
thank you.
you're okay. Don't worry.
Thank you so much. That was more than great. Thanks for your time and for the insights you shared. And all the best wishes for you, for State of Grace, and all your future plans.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. If you need anything else, please reach out. Let me know.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
man. You
Bye
too.
bye.
Bye.